we've got people filing into the room now. I just want to say welcome everyone to OHS Canada's webinar on how to build a hand safety program, brought to you by our friends over at Superior Glove. I'm Todd Humber, the senior editor for OHS Canada. Before I get around to introducing our speaker today, just a few quick housekeeping notes. You, the audience, are in listen-only mode. That means we cannot hear or see you, but we definitely want to hear from you. We've got some time set aside at the end of today's session for a special Q&A with Kate. You can enter your questions at any time using the Zoom webinar control panel on the bottom of your screen. So please do that. If you have questions, we'd love to get to those at the end of our session. Today's session is being recorded, so you will receive a link to the session from Superior Glove in the coming days to that recording. So keep an eye out for that. Now it's my privilege to introduce the star of our show today, Kate Crespo. Kate is the Hand Safety Program Manager at Superior Glove. She has more than 20 years experience in the industry, and her focus is providing a program that helps companies understand the whys around the right PPE for each hazard. So Kate, welcome and over to you.
Thank you very much, Todd. And thank you for everyone that's on the webinar today. I look forward to speaking with you about how we might be able to help your company. So I'd like to talk a little bit about who we are. Over on the left, you're going to see Joe, and on the right, you'll see Tony. These gentlemen are the owners of Superior Glove. Their father owned Superior Glove before they did. They're absolutely wonderful to work for. And, you know, Joe came out with a book, which is the premise of what we do here. And it truly gets into the culture around PPE, not just, you know, the gloves you're wearing or the sleeves you're wearing, but the culture of it. We're also a lead innovator in hand safety in North America, and we are a top glove manufacturer. One of the great things for Canada is that there's 4 company-owned and operated manufacturing plants in Canada, and then we have 1 in Honduras. And we have several distribution centers across Canada and the US. So why hand safety? Hand injuries are the #1 preventable workplace injury. You know, there's no shortage of glove styles on the market. We all know that. Workers are still getting injured. And so surprisingly, you know, for a company that makes gloves, we don't see PPE as a silver bullet solution in reducing your hand injuries. You know, Joe's book isn't just about PPE. Instead, it really focuses on a practical way to, you know, safety managers so that they can reduce their hand injuries in their companies. We've been doing this the last several years, and we've helped companies reduce their injuries by 50%, some even 90%. It provides practical ways to get workers to change their behavior and shift safety culture. And it's really based on things safety managers often do in the top, you know, mining and industrial companies. And we've really had success implementing this. We see the challenges. It's about so much more than just wearing gloves. It's about culture. It's about motivation. It's about leadership and wanting to wear the right glove, comfort. I go over this slide pretty quickly because we see this, you know, every day in our roles in safety, you know, the compensation costs. My talk around this slide is, okay, so if you're missing a thumb, if you're missing a finger or a hand or an arm, are you able to do those things with your family, not even work-based, just family? Are you able to hold a baby's bottle or eat? Or play ball with your kids. These are real injuries, and it has much more of an impact than just what you're going to see on site at work. So here's the iceberg effect. We talk about this a lot, you know, in the reported mandatory reporting arena for accidents and serious injuries. But what we like to focus on is the unreported and the voluntary reporting. As much as 69% of injuries and illnesses may go unreported. I'd like to tell a little story when I get to this slide because it's near and dear to me. I work with several steel mills, One of the steel mills that I was in, I was interviewing a few of the employees that were sampling or just measuring the steel through the rolling mill. The steel is about anywhere between 1500, 2000 degrees. They go up there, they're up there for about 20 seconds to take samples. The gloves they had on were terry cloth, and that's fine for heat. So they had the correct glove on for heat. Unfortunately, the water that was cooling down the stands to allow to allow them to keep cool while that steel runs through was also getting on their gloves. So not only were they going through about 10 different pairs, depending on what they were doing a day, when I asked them to take their gloves off, every single person had red, and what they said, steam, they would say steam burned or boiled hands. When I asked them if they'd ever talked to the safety manager about that, they said, this is just part of the job. I mean, this is what we have to deal with. They had no idea that there was actually PPE out there that could help them. We had them in different PPE in a week, and those injuries immediately stopped. So those are some of the things that we can look at while we're in. I mean, this causes productivity loss, drop in morale. Obviously, you know, we all look at the increase in insurance costs, training costs of replacing someone, and then long-term life-changing impacts to injured employees. So this is another one, you know, I see the right tool for the right task. I have been into hundreds of sites, and you have to have an MOC for a tool to be on the floor. So why don't we do that for gloves? I see supervisors ordering gloves. I see, you know, purchasing ordering gloves. In the case of that mill that I spoke about, it was a warehouse manager who had really never been on the floor, and he'd been in there for like 15 years and had never asked the right questions. So when I talked to him about that glove and the issues that those employees were having, I didn't realize that he was the one that had actually purchased that glove for them. So it was really personal to him. And by the time we were done with the assessment, he thanked me and he said, you know, I would have had no idea that this was going on hadn't it been, you know, for you getting on the floor and speaking with the employees. So that right glove for the right task is so important. The other thing that we hear quite a bit about is workers shouldn't have to choose between comfort and safety. There has been so much innovation in the last 5 years. Superior Glove is definitely a top innovator. We can come up with 4 to 6 different gloves a month. We really want to make sure that not only are we picking the right glove for the right hazard, but the employee is actually going to want to wear the glove. There's no fight if they're not even going to wear the glove. But if we can get something out there that allows them to do their job, it breathes, it's comfortable. It's something that can change a safety culture just by putting a comfortable glove in place. So these are some of the things that we found in our safety program findings. Lack of organizational direction and emphasis, meaning there's not a lot of signs on hand injury prevention, policies, just signage on the right gloves to wear, inconsistency between traumatic and long-term exposure. So this is something that I've found at almost every location that I've gone to. Long-term exposure could be chemical, could be carpal tunnel, you know, vibration, white finger. So many times an employer is not going to realize that until maybe a year or 2 before retirement, or maybe they, you know, maybe they'll start mentioning it, but it's not something that's brought up. So if we can help with, you know, making sure that no chemicals can get on the hand. When I do my trainings, I talk about a piece of garlic being put into the palm of your hand. That garlic sits in the palm of your hand. You know, at first you're going to smell it, right? But after a few minutes, you're going to start tasting that. So when we talk about long-term exposure, we're talking about, you know, that the chemicals that they're having on their hands, their forearms every day that could cause things like cancer, stroke. So we wanted to acknowledge those as well. The other thing we see is no site minimum standards for protection levels, not just for employees, right? So for visitors, suppliers coming in, many times companies have construction workers that are there on a regular basis. And what about them? Are they, do you have them trained on what your protection levels are? Outdated hand and arm procedures. So when a new hazard was introduced, was the procedure updated? And then on the employee side of things, lack of knowledge of the hazards present. So when I go out on the floor and I'm interviewing an employee, I typically ask, let's just say anywhere between 6 to 10 questions. One of the first things I ask is, so what type of hazards are you working with? And once in a while, I'll get someone that really has a good knowledge around the hazards that are present. But I typically have a teammate with me, and while I'm speaking, they're looking at some of the other hazards, and I am as well. And then when you ask the question a different way, they're like, oh yeah, and there are burrs. I'm handling dunnage, I get slivers all the time. Many times they just think of that as part of their job. They're not realizing that that's something that can be prevented. They don't understand the protection standards of ANSI standards. So they don't understand, A1 is the lowest cut level you can get, and then we go up to A9, which is the highest. I would say about 96% of people don't even understand those standards. They're just trusting that their employer has the right products there for them. And then not understanding the whys of the right glove for the right task. So throughout this program that we're working with, we can help you build that template of the right glove for that right task, so that you know that you're not going to have a glove on the floor that could become a hazard. We've already spoken about this a little bit, but they choose gloves based on comfort versus protection. So if you have gloves in a warehouse or in a vending machine and they're not, there's no restrictions on them, 9 times out of 10, the employee is going to pick something that's more comfortable versus what's going to provide the protection that they need. I've been in several instances where someone's not wearing protection. Many more instances where there was improper hand placement, whether that be because a employee's newer or that maybe they're just tired. So that's something that we mention as well when we do our reporting, if we've noticed something as far as improper hand placement. The other thing is not carrying out hand exercises. On the longer shifts in particular, where there's repetitive work, something as simple as doing some hand exercises, talking about that in toolbox talks, we can provide some information around that as well, some training. Attitudes. Lack of belief that accidents are preventable. And this is a good one. I'm careful. I'm not going to get hurt. I was just at a site recently and I went into the dye room and he was working with Dr. blades and dyes. I couldn't find a cut glove anywhere in his area. I asked if he used gloves even when he was handling the Dr. blades. And he said, I was a butcher for 20 years. I'm careful. I will never get hurt. He said those exact words. So there is a lot of that out there, and just, he didn't realize that there was a glove that was almost as thin as a disposable nitrile glove that had A9, meaning top level cut protection that could breathe. He just had no idea. So when he saw that glove and put it on, he's just like, are these in the vending machine? Can I get them right now? So those are some of the highlights when I go in, and I can really see that the culture, so he's going to go and he's going to talk to 10 other people and be like, hey, there's some gloves out there that can really help us. That's where, the attitude you see start to change when someone asks those hard questions and they can pair it with a glove that works for them in their situation. The other reason we like to work with end users is, there might be lack of right sizing, lack of cut protection sleeves, lack of back of hand protection, or lack of stock. So we'll discover that throughout the process, and we can work with you on that. So Superior Glove has sizes that are extra, extra small up into 3X, sometimes 4X. I had a question on my last webinar about this as well. So what if someone's missing a digit or 2 digits? We can make the right glove for that individual. So they don't have to, stuff part of their glove or even cause a hazard by part of that glove hanging off. We can help with that as well. And then, lack of back of hand protection. Again, I could tell so many stories on this, but they just think that that's part of what they do. And eventually, that those long-term injuries are going to come into play if the back of hand protection isn't there in that glove. So even as early as, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, most of the time that you would have to wear back of hand protection, it felt like you were wearing a mitt. So why would I want to wear that if I can't do my job, or if I have to wear this for 8 hours a day, my hand can't breathe, it's just making me hot. You can get back of hand protection now on a knit glove that can get into those smaller areas, that can make sure your hand's comfortable. Again, just letting safety professionals know and the team know that there are products out there that can help them. So we want to address all gaps in safety controls. PPE is your last line of defense. We are a glove manufacturer, but we really have our hearts involved in this. We want to keep people safe. So I've been to well over 1,000 different manufacturing facilities where I have seen elimination, substitution, your engineering controls, administrative controls, and of course, last but not least, the right PPE for that area. So if I can be another set of eyes and can say, hey, I've seen this application before, and I've seen where we could remove this hazard by using XYZ, or maybe we could substitute it. So that's my pleasure when I come in. I truly enjoy helping in those areas, and it could be something as simple as an administrative control to really stop those recordables or first aids from happening. Our focus when we come in is on environment and behavior, and of course PPE, but we really focus on that behavior part of these three when it comes to when we're interviewing the employees and what we write about in the report. So we base our recommendations on ANSI standards. Not only ANSI standards, but again, what we've seen in other industries that are doing that have the same hazard that your industry would have. So between the two, and that's how we come up with the template of the glove that you would need. Most times when I'm going in and I'm talking to customers, they focus on cut ratings, and that's great that they want to protect their employees. But I'll throw a story out here. I was in another mill, and I walked in and I talked to the safety manager. We were about ready to go out to do the assessment, and I showed him my new A9 glove. You wouldn't know it. It's super thin. It's almost, again, as thin as a nitrile throwaway glove, but it's an A9 cut. And he said, all right, let me see that glove before it goes out on my floor. We gotta put it through the test. So he, put it on a table, took a razor blade and tried to slice through the glove. The glove survived. And he said, okay, you can take that out on the floor and show my team. So while I was out there, I interviewed probably 30 to 35 team members. And each team member told me this story. They said, we're right in the middle of switching distributors right now. The glove that we had before lasted 2 weeks, but the glove that we have now is only lasting a day. Can you help us understand that? Because we're still at an A7. This glove was an A7 and the other glove was an A7. So what I found was that the abrasion rating on that glove that they currently had was a 1. versus the 5 that was on the glove before. And the 5 was the correct level that they needed for the abrasion rating. And everyone said the same thing. I'm losing grip. I mean, even a half a day, some of them were saying, I tear this thing up right away. So knowing what template to use, not just, going back to, cut, but what else do I need? So do I need heat? Am I working around heat? So you might not even need a cut glove when you're working with heat, but you might, be working around a furnace or an oven, or just some heated product that you would need a certain heat level for. So when you look at heat ratings, it's how long can you hold on to a hot part? So for a heat level of 3, you'd be able to hold on to that part for 15 seconds with an alarm time with just over 4 seconds at 400 degrees. We go over that. We can help with training. Impact rating. So we talked a little bit about impact before, but it's how much force is transferred to the hand. So when you can get an impact 3 glove that is comfortable on in a knit style glove that you can get into certain situations, mechanics, maintenance love it. That's the difference. Again, being innovative in the industry. And if you haven't had a hand safety assessment lately, this is one of the big areas that we know we can help. Puncture ratings. So many people know that there are puncture ratings, but few know that there are 2 different types of puncture ratings. So you have the probe, which is about the size of a pen, and then you have the pencil here for reference for a hypodermic needle. It's punctures 1 to 5. So most of the times I bring this into 2 different areas. Burrs and slivers, it can be dealt with the probe. And then when you get into hypodermic needle, that's where we look at people in the recycling industry and, cities and states, where they're going up and picking up needles. So you really wouldn't want this hypodermic needle, let's say it's a puncture 4, when you're trying to do heavy manufacturing, because you can barely move your hand. So if you can't use the glove for the task, then there's no use, trying to get it in there. But again, for burrs and for slivers, you can use this large object puncture thread. And then we spoke about abrasions. So how do you get it right with a hand safety program? Today we're talking a little bit about hand safety, but we have a 6-step program that really helps companies. So how we start is the discovery phase. Where do you want to be at? Where are you at now? What are your goals around your safety culture? And making sure that you have the right glove for the right hazard. We do that first before we even start an assessment. We make sure that we're all in the right frame, and that you realize that this is a commitment to get it right. So you've had the same glove in there for 15 years. This might take 3 or 4 months, but you're going to get the right glove for the right hazard. The next step is to come in and do an assessment. So this assessment, we typically would come in, we'd meet with you and your team for supervisors or anybody that wanted to learn more high level about the assessment that we're going to do, for about an hour. And then we'll go on site and you'll introduce us to employees. We typically like to do 2 or 3 per work hazard, so that we're getting a multitude of opinions on which gloves they like and which gloves they don't, or which hazards they're involved in. I also like to do that because sometimes, one of the 3 that I'm working with also has another task they might have to do. And if I didn't ask that person, we might not even know that he or she has to do that extra task. We'll go through that and we'll repeat that through the day. Some sites are pretty large, so we might be there 2 or 3 days. And at the end of that, we'll again review high level what we saw that day, and we'll set up a time to come out and do your PPE trial. The assessment itself is very important because that's what helps us create the report. Your report would be anywhere between 40 to 65 pages. You'd have all your hazards listed on the report. You'd have a template of a glove for each hazard listed on that report. You'd have any recommendations or observations that we saw all in one place. And you'd also have the PDFs for all those gloves located in that report. And then anything that the employees had mentioned to us, all those questions that I mentioned I asked are all going to be in that report. When I talk to safety managers, they mention all the time, they say, this is just amazing. It's like an easy button, because many times you've done these assessments, but there's no way to pull all that information into one, or you have pulled it in and it's taken you days to get a report ready to put together for your purchasing team, for production, and it all comes to you in a report that we'll review with you. So then the next thing we do is a PPE trial. Anybody that we had spoken to that original day, we will go back out and we'll have them come in and try on the PPE that we have selected for that hazard. So we're already going to know their size, their name, and what department that they're in. And when they come in to get that PPE, we're going to make sure it fits. We're going to listen to them a little bit and kind of see what the fit and feel looks like when they're in front of us. And then they can go back out on the floor with that glove on. We'll be there for a few more hours that day, so we might even get instant feedback. That's what I love. I think it's great when we get instant feedback, whether it's, hey, this glove is great, it's working really well, or hey, I might have neglected to mention that I'm working with a ton of grease for this task, and I tried to pick up XYZ and I didn't have the grip I needed. We can again pivot right there and select a different glove for that task. So during that, when I'm handing these out, it's really important that I let the employee know that filling out an evaluation that comes with their glove is super important, especially when it comes to purchasing. Again, you may have used that glove 15 years, but it's not meeting ANSI standards or what we're seeing in the industry. So firsthand knowledge from that employee or team member is super important, because the words that they're using can be used with your team in qualifying a glove or letting them know how important that is for that hazard. When we get to the evaluation, we'll collect, or all the gloves will have been collected at that point. That way we can see the wear patterns on the gloves, how long the gloves lasted. Other things that I've seen during this time is we gave the glove to an employee for a certain task, but maybe they were a floater and used that glove in a situation that they shouldn't have used it. Those are things we find during the evaluation. We will take all of the evaluation forms and put that on an Excel spreadsheet for you. So within 5 minutes, you can see which gloves work for what department. And then when you have the time, you can read through the evaluations, but at least you'll know on that visit, what PPE worked for your employees. After that, this is where the partnership comes in. So we'll work with you and your distributor on launch. And that to us means, how can we help your distributor, yourself, make sure we set those forecast numbers. If you're not vending, how do we help the distributor maybe vend to make sure we get the product out to your team a little bit quicker? Anything that we can do throughout that process, including training, even having a launch day, making it exciting. Hey, we're getting new PPE today. Let's have some fun. So we can, whatever you need during that time period, we can help you with. So this is how we bridge the information gap. I talked to you a little bit about Joe's book, Rethinking Hand Safety. This book is available to anybody on this call that would like it. We send it out in a digital format. But if you go on our website, we also have these hand safety guides. So we have one for steel mills, for HVAC, for construction, for oil and gas, sawmills, and then the underground mining. So we've already done this. So there, I mean, there's no reason to invent the wheel again. You can go in and look at these hand safety guides and see the workstations that you currently have at your site. And if there isn't a hand safety guide for your particular field, then that is super important. I mean, you can meet with us. We do a one-on-one with your hand safety specialist. You can do that in person or virtual, and we can help you with your hand safety program so that you'll have a template just like we have here for the steel mills and mining. I just wanted to leave time for questions at the end of this. It is a very unique program, so I'm sure several of you have some questions for us.
Hi, Kate. Thank you so much for that. And yes, we do have a lot of questions coming in. So why don't we start with this one? This person works at a seafood processing company. They've got a comment here that the workers sanitize their hands so often that they get dried and the skin peels. Can they put a cream on underneath the gloves? Or do you have any advice on what to do in that type of scenario?
Yes, so different companies use creams and things like that. We just came out with a glove that is waterproof for that industry. So that glove can be washed, but it'll also keep all that off of the employee's hands so that they won't have to use cream. So we can help with that, yes.
Very cool. Good. Next question here. So this person's asking about tips on what glove to use in cold weather environments that keep workers both safe and warm.
So we have several different types of gloves for cold environments. We also have, A4, A5 cut gloves with a membrane in it. So, I grew up in Buffalo, New York. It gets a little cold. So I'm sure everybody in Canada knows what I'm talking about. So it's one thing to be cold, but it's another thing to be cold and wet. So we have several different types of gloves, whether it be leather or knit. The knit has really gotten to be very warm, but you can also keep your hands dry and flexible. So whereas before you had to wear a leather glove, there are knit gloves out there that can get you down to, really low temperatures, but allow for that dexterity.
Great, good stuff. This one is more of a comment than a question. Kara said they use Superior A9 cut resistance and the team loves them. So some feedback there.
Thank you.
On that. And then a follow-up to that, are you developing a hand safety guide for general industry or bakeries?
No, but we would love to. So how we do that is through these hand safety programs. So if we can get to enough bakeries, or if there's several locations for bakeries, we would be more than happy to do a hand safety guide. That is exactly how they're created, is going on site and doing hand safety assessments. And then we can come back and make sure we have the correct information. We've gone through all the trials. We know what gloves work, what don't work. So instead of just having one glove, there might be multiple gloves that would work for that situation. And you can have, those gloves that your employees might want to use versus, another site. So yes, we can do that through hand safety programs. We just haven't had any hand safety programs at a bakery yet.
Gotcha. Okay, this next question is from Natasha. She's asking, what would be the best gloves to use for handling wire rope? She says here, my guys handle wire rope to make slings.
So you definitely want something that was a higher puncture rating. And my recommendation would be a micro core dip. That's going to give you the grip that they need as well. But yes, that puncture rating. So yes, you want cut for that, but you definitely need that puncture for those wires. And we can help you with that. Our team can help you picking out the right glove for that hazard.
Okay, this next question comes from Dan. So Dan's saying here that you mentioned you make arm guards. Do you also have cut resistant shirts?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yep, we also have FR apparel as well, but we do have cut resistant shirts.
Good to know. And this one here from Sabrina, she's asking here about the hand safety program and what cities is that available in?
So we, anywhere in Canada, US, and Mexico.
All right, so that's pretty broad then.
Yes.
You will come out to them and get that figured out. So the next question here, how can we ensure or encourage workers to report potential hazards they come across or near misses?
What I have found is just having that conversation with them and involving them in your hand safety program. Very recently, I mean, just in the last couple of years, I've seen many programs or many companies have a hand safety team. So depending on the size of your company, I mean, if your company is only 30, then maybe you would just have a couple people focusing on it. But these larger mills that I've been to, oil and gas, they might have a team of like 25 people that meet on a regular basis to discuss new innovations in hand safety, ergonomics, including, like the people that are on the floor. So there might be some supervisors, there's some people on the floor, there might be a couple people from the safety team, the warehouse manager, just all coming together to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak about hand safety. And when they feel that they're involved, that's when you'll start getting that involuntary reporting and having them come to you.
Great. Another question here about the hand safety program. This person's asking if they want more information or the cost for the program, who do they reach out to?
So there'll be an email sent out at the it'll probably be tomorrow, and that'll be my information, and you can reach out to me for that.
Great. So moving on to the next one. Again, this is also on the hand safety assessments that you mentioned earlier. So this person is asking, who does these and what environments are they recommended in?
So we have several people that do the hand safety assessments throughout Canada, US, and Mexico. So we're hand safety managers. That's what we're called within Superior. But we work hand in hand with your territory manager. So depending on where you are in Canada, US, and Mexico, you'll have a territory manager. And the reason we don't just do them on our own is there's a couple reasons. So one is we want a couple people there to be looking for hazards while we're speaking, just to make sure it's all encompassing. And the other thing is that we want to make sure your territory manager, who's going to be managing your account moving forward, has all that information that they need. So sometimes you might have 3 of us on site. It's very important to make sure that we capture all those hazards for you while we're doing those assessments.
Great, thanks, Kate. Questions are still coming in here, so we'll keep getting to as many as we can. Next up is, what glove do you suggest for those who are deburring metal?
Again, we have hundreds of gloves, but again, you would want a cut glove, A4 or above, and then you'd want to make sure that your puncture level is also high on that glove. But we can help you out with more specifics on that if you reach out to us. But yeah, you definitely want high puncture.
Sure. And this one here asking about, do you have a hand safety program for waste management recycling facilities? Our hazards include biological waste, sharp needles, chemical waste, etc. And what types of gloves would you recommend in that scenario?
So we can definitely do a hand safety program with those companies. We do have hypodermic needle gloves, and we also have worked in those industries before. So it's just a matter of you reaching out to us for one of us to come on in, and again, we'll have conversations before we come in. So the first thing that I do is a qualifying call. So once you say, hey, I'm really interested in this program, I'd like to move forward, we go through a qualifying call. Maybe we're not the right fit for you, or maybe you just have some specific questions that you need answered. We're willing to do that too. So If you're not really in for the hand safety assessment, but you just have some specific questions, we're willing to help you out with whichever way works best for you.
Great. The next question here is about impact level 3 gloves. So this person is wondering, why not go to impact level 3 for all of our gloves to ensure safety? Is that a comfort thing? Is there a danger in overprotecting?
Especially with the new gloves that are coming out, comfort is huge. So the glove that I was speaking about earlier for impact on a knit, it is level 3, and it is thinner. It is more comfortable than many of our older level 1 gloves. So yes, I don't think that there's, I mean, every task is different. So depending on how much space you have in there, but if it's thinner than a 1 that you're already using, you're not going to hurt anything by going above that.
Good stuff. Next up here, how can we make sure our employees are wearing the right PPE and gloves for the job?
So you can, I would love to come in and help you out with a hand safety program. However, on your own, you can do this on your own by, again, just, interviewing a few of the people that are on each hazard, and then, working with your territory manager with Superior Glove. They can come in and get those questions answered, and we can, like I said, we can either do a hand safety program with you, or we can help you work on your own.
Great. And the next one here, we need a better, more targeted hazard assessment to choose the best glove. Any tips to help with that?
So working with a manufacturer that is coming in and not trying to match a glove for the glove that you have there. So again, making sure you're focusing on the hazards. So if I go up to a line it can't just be line 1 needs to wear this glove, because as you're going down the line, there might be different hazards in those different areas. So you need to figure out what the hazards are for the area and then find the glove to match that. And our team would be more than happy to help you match a glove to those specific hazards. Even taking pictures of the hazards, videos of the hazards. So if we're not on site, we can help you match that glove.
Okay. Next question that's come in here. Do you have a glove that is as robust as a leather glove, but not so cumbersome?
Yes, several.
And what examples would you give of that? Like what's, leather versus the ones you have?
So there are plenty of knit gloves, depending on what you're using it for. It used to be that, leather was the most abrasive glove that you could get. But there are plenty of materials out now, again, that are much thinner, that can give you, like Tenactive, that can give you, that robust feeling, but it's gonna be able to breathe. And then the dips on the glove. So the like micropore dip could have an abrasion level of up to 6. Gloves really, or leather gloves really don't come with something on them that say, hey, this is the abrasion level, because they were typically the highest that you could get. But now in the industry, there are knit gloves that you can get. You just have to pay attention to the dip on the gloves. That's what'll help you.
Gotcha. Okay, next up, how can we make sure management is purchasing the correct hand PPE and not just the cheapest ones?
So that's one of the reasons that Joe wrote his book. Again, I hope that everybody on the call asked for a copy of it, because that this is one thing that we address. So safety managers typically call me the easy button when it comes to communication with purchasing. Not only are you going to have that report that shows what we found when we were on the floor, but you're also going to have firsthand knowledge from the people that are doing the work. So many times purchasing can sit in and say, okay, well, this glove's working, but they're not seeing that they're going through 20 gloves a day. They're not seeing that the grip isn't there, and that it's a hazard. The glove in itself is an actual hazard. So when you get all these pieces put together, it helps create, it helps address that gap that happens all the time between safety and that purchasing person, where they might just not realize that because they're just drilling down and looking at the price of a product, where you could come in and say, hey, not only are we going to save on gloves, but this is going to be so much more safer and comfortable for that employee. That's what I would recommend.
Great, thanks. This next question, it's a bit wordy. I'm going to just distill it down. Essentially, they're asking about training employees. They've had some issues with employees not using gloves properly or wearing the wrong glove for the wrong task. So any ideas on how they can effectively train their staff on proper glove use and hand safety practices?
So we offer training at no cost to your team. And we can go in there, and one of the ones that I really like doing is, glove 101 and kind of answering the whys. So why do I have to wear this glove? And why do I have to do this? And why do I have to do that? It's going to answer the majority of those questions. The other thing is glove boards. So we offer glove boards at no cost throughout this program. And on those glove boards, it's going to show a template, and it's going to show what glove to wear for the right task. Again, we do these glove boards. You could do them on your own if you want to do your own hand safety program. But that's really big, is getting, it's like a 24x36. You can put it in your vending machine or by your vending machine in warehousing or in a specific area that shows the right gloves. And then underneath it, it's going to say A4 cut, level 3 abrasion, level 3 puncture. And that really hits it home to them, because again, they don't know those standards. So once they're trained, and again, we can come in and train the supervisors and let them be and help them train the employees, or we can come in on a safety day and actually train your employees. We'd be more than happy to do so.
Great. Next one here, asking kind of about how often they should review and update our hand safety program to ensure it remains effective and up to date with industry standards. So how often should you be reviewing your hand safety program?
Anytime, I mean, every few years, I would definitely look at it. Or if you have changed something on the floor. I mean, you could be doing the same thing that you've done 3 years ago, and then you'd be fine, but you should still look at it. Again, innovation, just asking those questions. How's the glove working? How's everything fitting? But something as simple as changing an oil that you use. So one of my gloves could have been fine with that oil before, but now you went ahead and changed the cutting oil to something different, and it's going right through the glove. And if you wouldn't have updated it, you wouldn't have realized that there was that issue that was going on. So definitely anytime you change part of the hazard, or if there's a new hazard, I would update. And then every few years, I would update as well.
All right, good stuff. This one's asking, what metrics or indicators should we track to assess the success and effectiveness of our hand safety program?
One of the metrics I would see is compliance. So are they wearing the gloves? Did we go from, people are just not wearing gloves and only would put them on when they see the safety manager coming through? Compliance is big, but it's those, whatever it was, 68, 69% that aren't being touched. So, hey, are you getting those burrs? Are you getting those slivers anymore? Are you able to grip? So those are the ones you really want to track as far as being able to do their job better and more comfortably. Even safety culture. So what was my safety culture like before we switched to these gloves? And what is it like now? What was it like before we adjusted a few behaviors? Those are the things that I would start tracking versus, obviously there's going to be recordables and first aids that will go down. We have tracked that those have gone down anywhere between 50 and 90% within a year of implementing this program. But again, I would look at the ones that aren't being reported and just overall wellness of the employee.
Great. And then this question, I have no control over what my workers wear. How can I have an impact?
Training.
Right.
Training can definitely help. going in and training and making sure that at least that template's built out for that glove or PPE, whatever you need in that situation. I mean, we can only control the controllables. So being able to put nudges around, we see pictures all the time of, a guy or a gal with a hard hat on and gloves and boots and glasses. Having these in front of employees, having toolbox talks about this. And again, just being able to have somebody come in and train them and answer any questions they might have. But number one, keeping them involved in the process.
Great. So I think that gets us through all the questions. There's a few comments here, just, Kate, just thanking you for your time and what a wonderful job you did today. So that's always nice to see. And then there's a few questions, just people asking again about where they can find your email to send inquiries. So just to confirm that information is going to be in the email that goes out from Superior Glove, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. So that brings us to an end of our session today. So Kate, on behalf of OHS Canada, I want to thank you so much for your time and expertise. I always learn so much on these webinars. It's so great to hear an expert like yourself. So I appreciate that. Again, just a reminder, you will receive a link to this recording. So look for that. That's coming directly from Superior Glove. And also, there's a couple questions here about getting a copy of the book. There's going to be a link to that in that same email, right?
Correct.
Perfect. So look for that and you can get a digital copy. So again, on behalf of OHS Canada and our partners at Superior Glove, we thank you for joining us today and we wish you a safe rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.